I'm running out of ways to open the show. I'm 46 episodes in. So hi, I'm Fuzz Martin, and this is 15 Minutes with Fuzz, a show where we cover the positive people, places, things, events, businesses, nonprofits, celebrations, community news, and other things going on in and around Washington County, Wisconsin. This episode is launching on Monday, June 13th, 2022. This coming Sunday is June 19th, or as we better know it, Juneteenth Day. This year, Washington County is hosting its third annual Juneteenth Day celebration. And this week, County Executive Josh Schoemann and Chief Health and Human Services Officer Julie Driscoll join me to talk about the history of Juneteenth Day, what it is, how it got started here in Washington County, and what you can expect at this weekend's Juneteenth Day celebration. With that, here are 15 minutes on Washington County's Juneteenth Day celebration with County Executive Schoemann and Julie Driscoll here on 15 Minutes with Fuzz. Julie and Josh, thank you for joining me today to talk about Juneteenth in Washington County. Very important date, and I was hoping first, before we get to what the county is doing for Juneteenth Day and the third annual celebration of Juneteenth Day, Josh, if you can give us a bit of a background on what Juneteenth is.
Yeah, I can give you the thumbnail sketch. So Juneteenth marks the day when federal troops led by, at that time, Major General Gordon Granger, arrived in Galveston, Texas. So it was 1865, right at the tail end of the Civil War. And he announced the news that the Civil War was over and slaves were now free in the United States of America. So it honors the end of slavery in the United States officially and is considered the longest-running African-American holiday. So the day is a combination of June and 19th to be Juneteenth in honor of that date. And it first appeared right around 1903.
Okay.
It's also known as African-American Freedom Day or Emancipation Day.
How did we start a Juneteenth celebration here in Washington County?
Back in 2020, you'll remember all of the protests around Black Lives Matter and, of course, the COVID year, all that pent-up energy. And there was a number here in Washington County, believe it or not. There were people on a corner somewhere with signs in just about every municipality. So I went and visited a few of them just to try to understand, first, what they thought they were there for, and second, like, what can we tangibly do?
Yeah.
And I was in Hartford, downtown, on the corner of 60 and Main Street, talking to different folks and taking notes. And there was a Black woman with her kids who were teenagers, and we got in a really interesting discussion. And she was telling me that they had moved out to Hartford, like so many people do, to get away from Milwaukee and MPS and crime, and wanted her kids to be raised out here. And she said, but the thing that disappoints me most is that there is no acknowledgement or celebration of MLK Day, and nobody celebrates Juneteenth Day. That's my Independence Day. And I looked at her and kind of, oh, yeah, sure. And I walked away and went, the hell is Juneteenth Day?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so I started to do the research that I just read to you, and was really moved and thought, wow, it's really the end of the Civil War, and boys, that's some shared history that I saw. It wasn't long, and I went to the old war memorial by the Tower Heritage Center, the old courthouse, and kind of looked at all the names of people who fought in the Civil War from Washington County and thought, boy, if people really understood what this day was, we've got some shared history that I think could really build some connections and some understanding. And that was in May, maybe, 2020, and we're like, 4 weeks to plan an event? No big deal.
No problem.
It's typical Josh. And so we threw together a Juneteenth Day and had our first in 2020, and now we're working on our third.
Excellent. And I'm glad that we're doing this, because I totally agree with you. And my wife, as a teacher, she grew up in Chicagoland, and so when she came up here, she's like, we don't do any of those things that we used to do when she lives in Illinois, and we don't recognize a lot of those, at least in the rural areas. So they do in Milwaukee and some other more populous areas. But it is something that I think is important, and it's good that we're here in Washington County recognizing that now. So kudos to you for getting that ball rolling. And And Julie, what has the process been like to get this started when Josh said, here, you've got 4 weeks, get it done?
Yeah. Well, so our first annual, it was 4 weeks. It was very quick, but the whole purpose and focus that we really had is really to maintain sort of a faith focus on this event, as well as being, purposeful, intentional, and respectful. We've been led by two pastors in Washington County. Pastor Clarissa Martinelli, who is from the Fifth Avenue United Methodist Church, and Pastor Henderson from Barron's Family Worship Center in Germantown. And so they've really been guiding us. And I think, they've been really focusing on helping us to move the needle, right? That's really the conversation that we've been having for the last 3 years. And so last year, with their guidance, we formed a committee for our second annual Juneteenth Day, and we were able to engage two really remarkable speakers, Eugene Pitchford, who's from Concordia University, and Orlando Owens, who at that time was out of Senator Ron Johnson's office. And they came in and really helped to really make the day respectful, to really acknowledge the need here in Washington County to help people to just be educated about what Juneteenth Day is. And so for this third annual event, we're following that same format, very faith-focused. Pastor Martinelli from the United Methodist Church is our MC and is guiding us. And we have a really great speaker this year as well. His name is Robert Bell, and he's a pastor out of the Family Life Church in Milwaukee.
Excellent. So what does the typical Juneteenth celebration program look like here in the county?
A lot different than anybody who's probably familiar with Juneteenth Milwaukee or Juneteenth Houston, which, as you might imagine, Houston was kind of the birthplace, if you will, or at least had the largest celebration. This is more like Memorial Day here in West Bend, very much a solemn kind of event where people are really learning and taking in what the day is about. So for us, we just try to make it something where they're hearing a message that most people around here have actually never heard before. They're learning what I learned back in 2020 for the first time ever in many cases, and just trying to understand some of the customs and the cultures. So last year, for example, we had what we learned to be a tradition of Juneteenth Day, red velvet cake and strawberry soda, and some poem readings, some songs and hymns actually that are related to the day. So it's just little tastes of what's important about this day.
Talk about a bit about the actual program. So we've got you said it's faith-based, so we have an invocation and such as right. And then we go into some other portions of the actual event for the day.
Yeah. So, it starts with the invocation. We have some songs, as Josh indicated, our national anthem and another song, which is actually a hymn from the 1900s called Lift Every Voice and Sing. And then there are some poems that are read by some students. This year, we've engaged some students from the Germantown High School and Rockfield Elementary in Germantown. And so they'll be reciting some poems that are connected to Juneteenth. And then we have a speaker. As I discussed before, Pastor Robert Bell is kind of the main speaker, and his theme or his message is really about the courage to be different. And he was really struck by the fact that we were doing this event here in Washington County, just knowing the makeup of our county, and really said it was very courageous and that we were sort of helping to lead that message here in our community. And so that's the theme that he'll discuss. And then there'll be a closing. And then afterwards, there'll be a bit of a celebration where we'll be serving strawberry soda and red velvet cake. This year, we'll also be giving out some children's books that talk about Juneteenth Day to just help people to understand a little bit more about the history and what it's all about.
So, Julie, can you give us some of the details on, obviously it's going to take place on June 19th, but when and where, what time and where is the Juneteenth celebration going to happen here in Washington County?
Yep. So it's Sunday, June 19th, Father's Day. Great day to get outside and celebrate that wonderful day. It's at 1:00 here in downtown West Bend. The event will be hosted at the Old County Courthouse. I think the whole event will probably take about an hour, and there'll be some opportunity for mingling and celebration at the end.
Perfect. And then if people want to support the cause, how can they do so?
Yeah, so this year we're wanting to expand our committee, and we're wanting to expand people who are interested and invested in furthering and continuing this celebration. And so we're going to have an opportunity for people to use a QR code at the event so that they can provide us their name and information and what they might be interested in supporting or being involved in next year's event.
again, to both of you, Julie and Josh, the idea that we have this now in Washington County and that we're going to continue this celebration and recognize it, not just when things were really burning hot with the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd and those things, but even just continuing this and starting a tradition for this to happen here in our county, I think is important. And I, again, praise you both for having the courage to do this and getting it rolling here in our county to help not only support those here who live in our county who now have a day to reflect and to celebrate, but then also for the education of our citizens here in Washington County, the residents and children. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And in true form to how we've tried to set this up, you got to give the honor to the people who made this all possible, the Emancipation Proclamation, the folks who fought in the Civil War, the ancestors who were slaves who brought themselves out and have built themselves up, and obviously glory to God. I mean, it's kind of interesting to hear it referred to as courageous because it seemed like just the right thing to do, and it seems like something that's very unifying, and we have so many things in society right now that are tearing us apart. What better way than to bring ourselves together in a shared history and a shared understanding, and that's what we hope it's about. I mean, I'm excited for the 19th. The last couple of years I've been excited for the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll be a great event, and Father's Day is so very special as well. To do them together, I think is going to be very cool. Look forward to seeing people out there.
Perfect. Thanks again.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks again to County Executive Josh Schoemann and Washington County's Chief Health and Human Services Officer Julie Driscoll for joining me on this week's episode of 15 Minutes with Fuzz. I hope you will join them at the Tower Heritage Center in West Bend for this year's Juneteenth Day celebration. If you like this show, please be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. You can also find more information about the show at 15withfuzz.com. That's 15withfuzz.com. New episodes arrive in your favorite podcatcher every Monday morning at midnight. I wake up early, just like a baker. Put this all together. I don't. I schedule it. I scheduled this on Friday, so there. Thanks again. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next Monday right here on 15 Minutes with Fuzz.